At the golden wedding banquet, everyone said I was lucky in life. My husband could earn money and was family-oriented. Apart from being late today, he was practically the perfect man. I smiled shyly and asked my granddaughter to call and urge him to hurry. When the call connected, the guests heard Gu Zheng say, "Meng Qing, let's get a divorce. In this lifetime, I've had enough of your domineering and overbearing ways. Every major occasion, you force me to wear old-fashioned Zhongshan suits. On the 3rd of every month, it's always the same stir-fried pork with peppers. Even today's banquet has stir-fried pork with peppers. I don't want to be buried with you after I die. If it weren't for you, the person I should have married would have been Wei Wei. In the next life, please stay far away from me." I stood frozen in place. Before I could even question him, my heart ached with a sharp pain. When I opened my eyes again, my surroundings had changed. The calendar on the wall read March 3, 1975. It was the day of our engagement. This time, I decided to live for myself. "All this table of dishes today was made by Meng Qing, right?" the village party secretary asked casually. Gu Zheng nodded, a hint of emotion in his words. Meng Qing queued up at the supply and marketing cooperative early in the morning to buy the ingredients, then worked half the morning to make this whole table of dishes. The village party secretary laughed heartily at that, his laughter full of blessings for us, the soon-to-be married couple. After he left, Gu Zheng leisurely asked me, "Tomorrow I'm going into town with the village chief. Which outfit do you think is more suitable?" I stared blankly at the two outfits in Gu Zheng's hands, my thoughts pausing for a moment, and casually pointed at the navy blue work clothes on the left. Gu Zheng agreed. "I think this one is more suitable too." At this time, Gu Zheng followed my opinions on almost everything, and even his colleagues would occasionally tease him. "We're all adults here, and you're still henpecked. At least you're a regular worker, you should have your own opinions." Gu Zheng didn't get angry but smiled instead. "I have a wife to manage me, you don't. Trying to sow discord. Afraid it's sour grapes. Isn't that the magnanimity a working class should have? In ancient times, I'd report you all and have you flogged." Those words made everyone tense up. They never dared to call me a henpecker again. And Gu Zheng never compared with others. He truly did everything to obey me and protect me, giving me full face in front of outsiders. Even going to the market to buy meat, he would call to ask whether to buy front leg meat or hind leg meat, what brand of toilet paper to buy, and whether the flower pot should be ceramic or plastic. Even the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship, which has always been the hardest to handle since ancient times, he managed to balance perfectly without a leak. My mother-in-law never made trouble, and our children were all filial and obedient. Yet unexpectedly, in his later years, it became solid evidence of my domineering and overbearing nature. Little did I know, he had treasured Su Wei in his heart for so many years. So long that I had forgotten Su Wei's brief existence in my life and couldn't even recall what she looked like. I couldn't help but shed tears, and Aunt Wei asked with concern, "Did that brat Gu Zheng bully you?" I shook my head. "No, I just miss my parents." "Good child. Once you and Gu Zheng get your marriage certificate, go back to the old house and visit." Aunt Wei let out a long sigh. My parents had passed away, and I was raised in the Gu family from a young age. Aunt Wei treated me like her own daughter, and Gu Zheng also protected me everywhere. The village kids called me an orphan without a father or mother, and it was Gu Zheng who stepped forward to chase them away. Then he took me door to door to demand apologies. With all this, how could I ever sort out the debts of gratitude between me and the Gu family? And how could I ever clarify that before Gu Zheng married me, his heart had been given to another woman? I died at 70, on the day of my golden wedding anniversary with Gu Zheng. My aged body, worn out from a lifetime of hard work, simply couldn't withstand the fatal blow Gu Zheng dealt me, like a knife to the heart. In the half hour it took for the ambulance siren to sound, I thought a lot. The scenes of my life with Gu Zheng after our marriage flashed through my mind like a blur of images. They stabbed at my brain, causing a dull ache. It was so painful I could barely breathe. My grandchildren dared not approach. Only my once most beloved youngest granddaughter tried to console me. "Grandpa is just senile. He doesn't mean what he says." I'll bring him back to apologize to you. Okay. Today is your and Grandpa's golden wedding anniversary. Don't let your anger ruin your health, it's not worth it. I stood frozen, speechless. How could Gu Zheng be senile? He played Go every day, studied math problems I couldn't understand, and occasionally made long-distance calls to old friends I didn't know to discuss philosophy. Whenever I asked, he'd get annoyed. You never went to college. You wouldn't understand even if I explained. Just focus on what you need to do. So I'd sheepishly pick up a rag, wiping the table legs until they shone, ready to host his research colleagues at any time. Today was our golden wedding anniversary, but he was late to appear and exposed my misfortune in front of all the guests. At over 70 years old, he said he wanted a divorce. I took a deep breath, my aged features suddenly crumpling, my body trembling even more. My granddaughter's tears spilled over. Grandma, don't scare me. Then my children frantically called an ambulance. After that, a cold object was placed on my nose. Before I closed my eyes, the back of my hand was wet with my granddaughter's tears. As the light dimmed and the crying grew fainter, I closed my eyes forever. I paused for a moment, then looked up at the calendar on the wall. March 3, 1975. I checked again. It was the day of my engagement to Gu Zheng. I looked down at my pale wrist, where there was no scar from hot oil splatters. I trembled with excitement, my eyes stinging, and quickly held back the aggrieved tears. Heaven had eyes, allowing me to return to the time before my marriage to Gu Zheng. There was still room for change. Gu Zheng and I didn't have to end up hating each other to the point of losing our lives. The mahjong bell rang, and Gu Zheng walked into the main room carrying red shrimp crackers and canned peaches, a smile in his eyes. I happened to pass by the supply store, so I bought your favorite snacks. Eat them for fun, but don't leave them until they're almost expired like you used to. My gaze fell on the worn mesh bag. Even though my memories of the 1970s were very vague, I knew that pastries and snacks weren't cheap in this era. He still remembered what I liked to eat. Unlike later, when he could never remember that I didn't eat cilantro. Every time, he'd say I was too picky. Whose book is that in your hand? I asked calmly, secretly observing Gu Zheng's expression. Gu Zheng seemed unconcerned and explained with a smile. Su Wei's. I borrowed some banned books from her. Don't spread it around. As he spoke, he handed the book over. The 5 large characters Pride and Prejudice came into view. I casually flipped through it and indeed saw the 2 characters Yan Wu on the letter paper inside. My thoughts drifted across a lifetime. I lowered my eyes and murmured softly, then what about Yan Wu? Who is Yan Wu? Still Su Wei. Yan is from Yan in Su Wei's surname. Wu is because she's the 5th in her family. Yan Wu is her pen name, but we'd better not spread it around. Yan Wu was the signature on the letters that crossed oceans with Gu Zheng in my previous life. In the 1990s, when communication records weren't yet widespread, they exchanged letters almost every 5 days, documenting the trivialities of daily life and work, including complaints about family and marriage, and expectations of hoping their children would succeed. They had common topics. Between him and me, there were only conversations about daily necessities and trivial matters. I stared at Gu Zheng silently, my throat feeling blocked by cotton, bitter and hard to bear, unable to speak. My eyes burned uncontrollably, perhaps seeing me lost in thought. He patiently explained again. Yan Wu is indeed Su Wei, but Su Wei and I share a purely revolutionary friendship. At most, it's a book-borrowing relationship. Please don't misunderstand. The Gu Zheng now was completely different from the Gu Zheng of my previous life. At this moment, he was patient and loving toward me, unwilling to let me overthink. Taking the initiative to explain, cherishing me deeply. But in my previous life, I had asked several times who Yan Wu really was. Gu Zheng never spared me a single glance, only scoffing lazily. I told you, you wouldn't understand anyway. Why bother? Later, whenever I asked, he would become reactive. What are you making a fuss about every day? You have to get to the bottom of everything. Can't you allow others to have privacy? I blinked and couldn't help but sigh. The answer I never got from age 30 to 70, I easily obtained at 20. The 20-year-old Gu Zheng loved me, but the Gu Zheng after 30 didn't. Not only did he not love me, he also forgot all our vows of eternal love, trapping me alone to struggle in memories, tormented, waiting to die. It was understandable that marriage wore away love. But why didn't he make it clear early on? Then I could have withdrawn in time and wouldn't have turned intense love into hatred. It didn't matter. Since he wouldn't say it, I would propose it myself. If the Gu Zhang after 20 was destined not to like me, it was better to pull out this thorn early. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. I pressed my lips together. Looking up at him, I asked, Gu Zhang, have you ever thought about calling off our engagement? Gu Zhang stood frozen in place, taking a long moment before finding his voice. Meng Qing, I promised your parents I would take good care of you and cherish you. How could I ever have such a despicable thought as calling off our engagement? I said I would treat you well, that in this life I would only love you alone. Calling off the engagement would make me an ungrateful wretch. Hearing the words ungrateful wretch, I was stunned for a moment. Back then, my father had saved his father on the battlefield, but was left permanently disabled and passed away not long after. My mother was a worker at the state cotton mill, and she too died in a fire while trying to save state property. The factory gave me a sum of compensation money, but as a young child, I couldn't protect that money from my clan relatives. It was the Gu family who helped me keep it safe. I promised your father I would take care of you for life, and I won't go back on my word, Gu Zheng assured me again. I froze instantly. The Gu Zheng of now still remembered my parents' sacrifice, speaking of gratitude and kindness at every turn. But years later, amid the trivial quarrels of daily life, he would only remember the moral pressure my parents brought him and the marriage contract that bound him like shackles. If it weren't for the engagement, perhaps we never would have come together, let alone been tied down for a lifetime. We would both have embraced a broader world. Sometimes I even think, wouldn't it have been better if your father hadn't saved mine? A favor in need is a debt indeed, but a favor too great breeds resentment. So it turns out that great kindness is like great enmity. Gu Zheng said softly, you haven't rested well these past few days, so your mind is wandering. In a couple of days, I'll take you into town to buy 2 of the latest styles of clothing. Just rest easy and prepare for our wedding. I didn't respond. When Aunt Wei comes back this evening, I'll make things clear with her. This engagement with Gu Zheng should have been called off long ago. Going out in the afternoon, I saw Su Wei working in the fields. For the first time, I took a good look at this person I'd never observed closely before. Su Wei was delicate in appearance, like a lotus blooming gracefully on a lake, every smile and frown carrying a fresh elegance. I watched her for a long time, my gaze shifting slightly. Then, slowly, I looked away, forcing a self-deprecating smile. So those love poems about lotuses were written for her. The lotus flowers painted in Gu Zheng's study were a veiled reference to Su Wei. The carefully cultivated lotus flowers in the backyard were also because of her. So that's how it was. Indeed, that's how it was. Though the sun was blazing, there were quite a few laborers earning work points in the fields. They cast their gazes towards Su Wei. Jiang Chuan, Gu Zheng's childhood friend and classmate, chuckled quietly. If it weren't for the engagement with Meng Qing, Gu Zheng might have gotten together with Su Wei long ago. Just look at that face of hers, so different from the village girls. Fair and tender, turning red at the slightest sun. That's right. Even though Su Wei comes from a bad class background, one of the 5 black categories, cutting ties with her family would solve that. Gu Zheng is a good man and wouldn't mind. Last time I even saw Gu Zheng go help Su Wei install a light bulb. And Su Wei made him a plate of scrambled eggs with Chinese tune in return. I don't believe there's nothing going on between them. Su Wei's face flushed with embarrassment. Don't talk nonsense. But that only drew louder teasing. Someone voiced concern. Messing around between men and women can get you sent to re-education through labor. You guys shouldn't talk nonsense. If the production brigade hears about this, it won't end well. Besides, isn't it unfair to Meng Qing to think this way? She's Gu Zheng's legitimate fiancé. If everyone just said and did whatever their imagination dictated, what would be the point of society's established conventions? That person replied. Just chatting casually. It's not like anyone can hear us. The wheat stalks hid my figure. I crouched in a corner of the field, unable to speak for a long time. Only after everyone had walked away did I move my numb legs to the edge of the ridge. After we got married, Gu Zheng never once fixed a pipe at home. The gas tank, I carried it up to the 6th floor by myself. I didn't know the model of the light bulb, so I had to bring the old one to the market to compare and buy a replacement. But he would change bulbs and gather firewood for Su Wei. All the childhood friends in the village knew. Except me. I said I wanted to call off the engagement. Aunt Wei wasn't particularly surprised, but she looked at me with worry and tension. She asked, "Have you thought it through?" I nodded. "Yes, Auntie. I've thought it over very clearly, and I'm not joking. This is a decision I made after careful consideration. In this life and the last, this was the clearest day I'd ever had." Aunt Wei sighed softly and patted my hand. "Child, you've been wronged. Having raised me since childhood, she knew my character well. Meng Qing must have suffered a great injustice to make such a decision." My eyes reddened, and I fought back tears. "Auntie, thank you for understanding and not blaming me." Aunt Wei pulled me into a hug. "How could I blame you? You've always been so good, so sensible, and so obedient since you were little." I finally wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. I went back to my room to pack my things. Since I was calling off the engagement, I couldn't stay at the Gu family home anymore. By all rights, I should return to the Meng family's old house. Just as I finished packing, Gu Zheng came back, with the summer heat still clinging to him. He smiled at me. "Meng Qing, look what I brought back." He lifted the crucian carp in his hand and waved it in front of me. "Tonight, I'll make your favorite crucian carp soup." Between this life and the last, it had been a long time since I'd had crucian carp soup. Because the bones were too troublesome, and to take care of the children, I usually bought snakehead fish with fewer bones. Often, Gu Zheng would just say, "What's so great about crucian carp soup? Eat the salmon our son brought back first." He walked over and saw the bundle I had placed in the corner. His brows furrowed. "Meng Qing, why are you packing clothes?" Then, as if suddenly realizing something, he said, "I get it. With the wedding coming up, do you want to stay at the old house for a few days? Why didn't you say so earlier?" "I'll go with you." I shook my head. "No." Gu Zheng's smile froze for a moment. He was momentarily stunned, but he quickly relaxed. "Then why are you packing clothes? Are you going to see your aunt in the city?" I gritted my teeth and silently encouraged myself. I looked up at Gu Zheng. Word by word, I said, "Gu Zheng, I want to call off our engagement." Gu Zheng was stunned for a moment. His face first turned pale. Then he laughed. "Meng Qing, what kind of joke is that? We're about to get married. You can't say something so unlucky like calling off the engagement." I pulled my hand back, my tone very calm. "I'm serious. I'm not joking." Gu Zheng looked bewildered. "Why? What did I do wrong? Tell me, and I'll change." "Okay." I moved my lips but couldn't speak for a long time. At 20, Gu Zheng had a handsome face. His expression faintly aggrieved as he softly admitted fault, looking very innocent. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, he rambled on. "Are you too tired lately? In a bad mood? Why suddenly say you want to call off the engagement? Our engagement was arranged by both families since we were kids. We both have feelings for each other. I know you wouldn't say something like this for no reason. Did someone stir up trouble or say something?" He studied my expression and asked tentatively, "Are you calling off the engagement because of Su Wei?" "I can explain." Gu Zheng leaned down, meeting my eyes. His gaze was like stars. He explained earnestly, "Su Wei and I really just have a pure revolutionary friendship. There's nothing inappropriate between us. I just saw her come to our village all alone and felt bad for her, so I helped her with some small things. You've always been the kindest and most generous person. I thought you wouldn't mind, so I didn't mention it." I nodded. "I really don't mind. Helping others is a good thing, nothing to mind about." It was visibly clear that Gu Zheng's brows relaxed when he heard I didn't mind. He placed his hands on my shoulders. "Since you don't mind, Then don't bring up calling off the engagement anymore. It hurts our relationship. That's two different things. I said. You helping Su Wei is your business. Me wanting to call off the engagement is ours. Gu Zheng. We are both too young. An engagement might be a cage that confines our freedom, and a shackle that traps us in a small courtyard. Gu Zheng looked bewildered. I said patiently, perhaps without the engagement, we would both step into a broader world and pursue what we truly desire. I returned to him the very words he had spoken in my past life. Gu Zheng couldn't believe it and instinctively fled in panic. No. I don't agree to call off the engagement. It cannot be called off. On the old lobby table lay a faded marriage certificate from years past, surrounded by Aunt Wei's sighs. Aunt Wei paused for a moment, then said, "You're so determined to break off the engagement. Has that boy been mistreating you?" Mistreating me? Perhaps. But that no longer mattered. I just think both Gu Zheng and I should be free to love on our own terms, not bound by our parents' agreement. Gu Zheng, however, refused. Meng Qing, stop making a scene. Our wedding is next month. If you call off the engagement now, what will the villagers think of us? I didn't say much, just took out the letters between him and Su Wei, along with some small exchanged trinkets, hair ties, cufflinks, a fountain pen. Gu Zheng opened his mouth, trying to explain. I didn't give him the chance. No matter what the villagers think, what matters most is that we live our own lives. I paused, then said softly, when the heart is unsettled, how can it last? Even if we force ourselves together, we'd only end up as bitter spouses. Perhaps dissolving the engagement is best for both of us. Aunt Wei saw those letters and slapped Gu Zheng across the face, scolding, "You unfilial son. How dare you face your late uncle and aunt?" Her eyes reddened, her voice choked with sobs, thinking of her husband who had passed 3 years ago. And of brother Meng and his wife. How could you do something to wrong Meng Qing? You ungrateful thing. All your schooling went to the dogs. You've forgotten every promise you made, daring to flirt with another woman. It's my fault too. All my fault. I failed to raise my son properly, and that's led to this disaster. Before old Gu passed, he urged me again and again to treat brother Meng's bloodline well, and I've failed to fulfill his last wish. With that, Aunt Wei broke down in tears. Gu Zheng knelt down. Mother, it's all my fault. But Su Wei and I were only casual acquaintances, proper and restrained, with nothing improper between us. Still making excuses. Another slap. Gu Zheng's head snapped to the side, his cheeks swollen and red, a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. I said nothing. Originally, I hadn't wanted to expose the ambiguity between Gu Zheng and Su Wei, nor did I want to put Aunt Wei through such torment. But Gu Zheng refused to break off the engagement. I had no choice. I couldn't bear baseless speculation. So I had to tear off the mask. Aunt Wei took my hand, guilt-ridden and uneasy, saying, "Good child, you've been wronged. Since that's the case, I won't try to persuade you otherwise. You and Zhenger will call off the engagement. From now on, you'll be my own daughter." Looking at the returned marriage certificate, I smiled. From this moment on, I had nothing more to do with Gu Zheng. Seeing me leave, Gu Zheng chased after me. I looked at the young Gu Zheng and said from the bottom of my heart, "This time, you can go marry the Su Wei you love. And I beg you, stay far away from me. Don't cling to me anymore." In my past life, I was trapped in that sweltering kitchen for decades. In this life, I can finally have a life of my own. For Gu Zheng, it's a release. And for me, isn't it the same? I quietly gathered some college entrance exam materials. After decades of spinning around the kitchen stove, I had long forgotten what it felt like to turn pages and hold a pen. So much so that when I sat at my desk, I was afraid and didn't know how to start writing. And I had to read several times before I understood the meaning of the words. In my previous life, Gu Zheng always said I never went to college, didn't understand his work, and had nothing in common with him. But in the first year the college entrance exam was reinstated, I was pregnant and had severe morning sickness, so I couldn't take it. The second year, my child needed breastfeeding, and I gave up the opportunity to take the exam again. The third year, Aunt Wei fell ill, and I was busy for months. Even though I took the exam, I didn't get into my dream university. Gu Zheng said I was too old, he was about to graduate, and with a child of 2 or 3. There was no need for me to attend university. In truth, I had regrets in my previous life. In this life, I want to live for myself. Having not touched books for decades, reading was extremely difficult. Fortunately, the college entrance exam wouldn't be reinstated for another 2 years. Those extra 2 years were enough for me to make up for the knowledge I'd lost in my youth. The next time I heard news of Gu Zheng, it was when he saved Su Wei from drowning. My pen paused. I felt a slight surprise at this unexpected news. A sound came from outside the door. Gu Zheng pushed the door open with familiarity and looked at me from a distance. He said, "Meng Qing, Su Wei and I have nothing going on. I just couldn't stand by and watch her drown. That's your freedom. You don't need to explain to me." I focused on my book, not sparing him a single glance, and he seemed at a loss for how to continue. "Is there anything else?" After a long pause, he spoke slowly. "Meng Qing, I want to ask you something." "What is it?" I replied. "Su Wei wants to get into the state cotton mill, but her family background isn't good, so it's hard for her to get in. I'd like you to write a letter of recommendation. It would be much easier with your help. To vouch for Su Wei, proving her positive attitude toward reform. So that's how the favor my mother bought with her life in my previous life was spent." He'd said it was for the wife of a close colleague, and I hadn't looked closely, just signed my name. I raised my eyes, looking at this man who had accompanied me through my entire life, and couldn't help but shiver. I said softly, "All right." Gu Zheng frowned. "You agreed, but I have conditions. Have Su Wei come talk to me." Gu Zheng seemed not to have expected my condition to be this, and after a moment of shock, he said okay. Before long, Su Wei came carrying a stack of books in her arms, pulled 200 yuan from her pocket, and took off the jade bracelet to hand to me as well. I examined it carefully. Yes, this translucent emerald green jade bracelet would sell for a fortune in the future, giving Su Wei a substantial starting fund and the chance to study abroad. "I've given you the things. Remember to write the recommendation letter," Su Wei emphasized. I nodded. In my previous life, I gave her the opportunity for nothing. This time, trading it for the bracelet means I'm not taking advantage of her. Watching Su Wei's retreating figure, I felt completely at ease. In this life, I've finally distanced myself from that pair of illicit lovers. Not only that, but I will also take charge of my own life. During the day I worked in the fields to earn work points, and at night I reviewed my studies at home. It was a simple life between two places, plain but fulfilling. But just like that, I was back to square one, surviving on cornmeal buns and wild vegetable porridge, unable to even fill my stomach. It was a bit hard to get used to. It also made me realize more and more how blessed the later generations were. Aunt Wei had a fever and was hospitalized. She had taken care of me for years, and as her half-daughter, I ought to visit her. I stewed some crucian carp soup I'd caught from the river and hurried to the hospital to see her. "Aunt Wei, try it. See if my cooking has improved." She took a sip, widened her eyes, and nodded. "Your cooking is better than mine. It tastes like someone with decades of experience. I never knew you made such good fish soup. What a clever and skillful girl you are. Why don't you come back and stay? Living alone in the old house must be lonely, with no one around to talk to." I declined politely. That wouldn't be appropriate. Gu Zhang and I had already called off the engagement, so living under the same roof really wasn't suitable. When Aunt Wei heard this, she let out a soft sigh and didn't push further, just took my hand. "Mom, Auntie." Two voices rang out at once. Gu Zheng walked in from outside the ward, locking eyes with me. Su Wei followed behind him. The moment he saw me, he froze for a few seconds as if stunned, and I was the one who greeted him first. "Hello." I felt very calm inside. I smiled and exchanged pleasantries with both of them. Su Wei smiled gently, stepped forward, and took Gu Zheng's hand. "Gu Zheng, tell Auntie about us." Aunt Wei frowned. What about? Gu Zheng hesitated, then said, I've decided to be with Su Wei. The story of me saving her has spread through the village. And it's hurt her reputation. I can't let her bear that alone as a young woman. I have to take responsibility for her. After saying this, Gu Zheng glanced at me, as if observing my reaction. I opened my mouth but ultimately said nothing. He got what he wanted. Gu Zheng in this life must be very happy, right? He married the woman he couldn't in his past life, making up for his regret. If only he had memories of it, he'd surely be overjoyed. He looked at me, seemingly waiting for my response. I thought for a moment and said, Gu Zheng, congratulations. I hope you get what you wish for. Don't blame others anymore. Gu Zheng frowned at my words, not understanding what I meant. I picked up the empty lunchbox, completely cleaned out, and walked out of the room, hearing Su Wei's voice behind me. Gu Zheng, when are we going to get our marriage certificate? Wait a bit longer, he said. Wait for what? Gu Zheng fell silent. He didn't know what he was waiting for either. He just felt an emptiness in his heart, as if he'd lost something precious. I just think it wouldn't be right to rub salt in her wound. After all, we only just called off the engagement not long ago. This time it was Su Wei's turn to be speechless. The smile on her face was hard to maintain. All right, whatever you say. Downstairs, Su Yan was waiting for me. Su Yan was my close friend from my youth, but unfortunately we had little contact after she got married. I heard that the man she married treated her badly, often hitting and kicking her. I told her that she didn't have to get married. Perhaps there would be a day when the college entrance examination would be restored. Her eyes sparkled. Then let's work hard together, and if that day comes, we'll strive to get into our dream university. I curved my lips slightly. Don't you think I'm joking? Su Yan gritted her teeth. Even if you're joking, I'll take it seriously. Besides, you're completely different from before, confident and radiant. I'm willing to believe you. I begged my parents to turn down the matchmaker's introduction, and I focused on working in the fields to earn work points, saying I needed to make money for my brother to marry. So they stopped pressuring me to get married. I nodded. Good. Then let's work hard together, hoping for the day when the college entrance examination is restored and we can return to campus. Su Yan smiled with curved eyes, her heart and mind filled with a longing for hard work. 2 years passed, and the notice of the restoration of the college entrance examination came down. Su Yan exclaimed in surprise. Heaven really favors us. Meng Qing, you're simply my lucky star. I smiled and shook my head, lowering my head to read. Before entering the exam hall, I ran into Gu Zheng at the door. I had deliberately avoided him before, so we hadn't seen each other for a long time. For some reason, Gu Zheng and Su Wei had yet to get their marriage certificate, and their relationship was restrained and superficial. Gu Zheng moved his lips. Meng Qing, have you been well these past 2 years? I said, just so. Nothing to speak of. Gu Zheng choked up and said bitterly, I wish you success on the exam. I smiled. I certainly will. After all, 2 years of relentless effort day and night weren't for nothing. Effort doesn't always bring returns, but without effort, there's definitely no return. While Gu Zheng was carrying water for Su Wei, I was memorizing texts. While Gu Zheng accompanied Su Wei into town to buy clothes, I was reviewing my mistakes. While Gu Zheng was planting hibiscus flowers, I calmed my mind and practiced calligraphy. Watching my retreating figure, Gu Zheng felt a moment of hesitation. Su Wei called out to Gu Zheng, let's go in too. Gu Zheng had no choice but to nod. Okay. Walking out of the exam hall, I felt as if the clouds had parted, bright and lively. I looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. Being reborn is truly wonderful. Because of my rebirth, I did quite well on the exam. I chose to apply for the architecture department at F University, which would soon become a booming and highly sought-after major. Su Yan barely hesitated and chose the same major as me. Her reasoning was simple. If we have each other as companions when we're away from home, we can help one another and won't be bullied. After Su Yan left, Gu Zheng came. Congratulations. You did well on the exam. He was tall and stood at the kitchen doorway, almost blocking out all the light. casting a shadow over me entirely. Thank you. Is there something you need? I asked. Gu Zhang's words got stuck in his throat, and it took him a long time to speak with difficulty. Did we have a fate in a past life? My fingertips paused. My heart trembled slightly. He stared at me intently and continued. Lately, I've been dreaming about you and me. In the dreams, we're married and have a pair of adorable children. Every time they call out, Mom, and Dad. It's slurred, but my heart feels sweeter than honey. Meng Qing, tell me, did we really get married in our dreams? I said softly. That's just a dream. Gu Zheng panicked. No, it's real. Every word you said, every dish you made, I remember it all clearly. It doesn't feel fake at all. He stepped closer to me, his voice hoarse and rough. Meng Qing, is there really no chance for us? I said helplessly. Right now, Su Wei is your fiancé. Do you think it's appropriate to ask that? Gu Zhang's face flushed red with shame at my words. He hesitated, then lowered his head. I'm sorry. But he quickly looked up, his eyes fixed on me with intensity. But I've only just realized that my feelings for Su Wei aren't romantic. I was just treating her like the old you. She has no parents, just like you used to be pitiful, so I helped her from time to time. My feelings for her are more like caring for a younger sister, not romantic love. I've been wrong all along, wrong for not seeing my own emotions clearly, because she reminded him of the old me, so he took care of her. My mind buzzed, and in the scorching summer heat, I felt like I had fallen into an ice cellar. Meng Qing, I'm so sad. Why did I wake up so late? The person I love is clearly you. I let out a soft laugh, my expression eerily calm. What are you sad about? There's no connection between us anymore. The one you should care about most is Su Wei, not coming to my house to say all this nonsense. Leave now. Gu Zheng. Gu Zheng left. Not long after, Su Wei came to me, saying that Gu Zheng wanted to break off their engagement and telling me not to pester him. Her eyes were red. Did you say something to him? Is that why he wants to call off the engagement? I sneered. Which of your eyes saw me pestering him? If you're blind, go get treated, so you don't run around biting people like a mad dog. I kicked Su Wei out. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. We didn't meet again until school started, this time on the train. I had to admit, Gu Zhang and Su Wei were naturally gifted students, even with just a few months of preparation. They could get into a good university. Gu Zhang offered to carry my luggage, but I politely declined. In my freshman year, I earned a scholarship. I treated Su Yan to a meal at a state-run restaurant. She was overjoyed, saying she would make a lot of money in the future to repay me. In my sophomore year, I started dating a guy named Jiang Chuan, who was decent in every aspect. People have to move forward. You can't hang yourself on one tree. I had done my research. He wasn't a mama's boy. He was generous, ambitious, responsible, and had a clean-cut, handsome face. He was a great match. He had been pursuing me for nearly a year, so I decided to give it a try, seeing if I could develop deeper feelings. Gu Zheng found me, a hint of sadness in his eyes. You're seeing someone? I nodded. It wasn't a secret. What about me? I kept my expression neutral, but I found it amusing. What was the point of saying this now? Gu Zheng stepped forward and grabbed my hand. Meng Qing, let's go back to how we were before, without anyone else. I pulled my hand back, frowning. Gu Zheng, no one waits forever for someone else. We've been over for a long time. I hope you won't bother me anymore. He muttered to himself. Really, there's no chance. I pressed my lips together and let my back give him the answer. He stood there, frozen, for a long time. After that, I didn't see him for a long while. In my senior year, I went home with Jiang Chuan to meet his parents. The day after meeting them, I broke up with him. Jiang Chuan, who had been enthusiastically planning our future, slowly lost his smile. Confused, he asked, "Give me a reason. Weren't we getting along perfectly? We even met each other's parents. Why are you suddenly breaking up?" He deserved an explanation. I stated firmly, "Your mother doesn't really approve of my family background. Hearing this, his expression relaxed. That's just how older people are, they nitpick. But you're so outstanding. She'll eventually accept you from the bottom of her heart. I shook my head. I don't want to be wronged. Not even a little. I wasn't reborn to endure compromises and swallow my pride. Not for anyone. If I saw even the slightest sign of trouble, I would cut it off without hesitation. In this world, no one is irreplaceable. Everyone is living their first life. Why should I have to put up with someone else? Maybe I just didn't love him enough to make any concessions. Even if the fault wasn't his. Jiang Chuan stood there, dazed, watching my retreating figure from afar, unable to move for a long time. When I returned to school to handle my final graduation matters, I saw Gu Zhang and Su Wei arguing downstairs at my dormitory. Su Wei's eyes were red. Gu Zhang, is the reason you broke off our engagement because of Meng Qing? You even came here specifically to find her. Gu Zhang took a deep breath, trying his best to maintain his gentlemanly demeanor. Su Wei. I didn't see my own heart clearly before. Breaking off our engagement was my own doing, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. Su Wei wanted to say more, but after glaring at me, she turned and ran off, looking utterly heartbroken. What are you here for? I asked. Gu Zhang looked at me with a complicated expression, unable to hold back the redness in his eyes. Meng Qing, it's so good. You're still alive. I've seen you again. I shifted my body and said with great uncertainty, you've also been reborn. Gu Zhang nodded, but I took a step back. He tried to step forward to support me. I shouted, don't come near. Even if you've been reborn, why do you have to appear in front of me? Gu Zhang kept his hand extended. I wanted to apologize to you. I didn't know those words would anger you to death. After you died, I grieved for 6 whole days before I too passed away. I didn't mean to anger you, and those weren't my true feelings. It was because I heard the news of Su Wei's death, and in my panic, I spoke without thinking. In any case, none of that was what I truly meant. Meng Qing, you have to believe me. We were husband and wife for decades. We can mend what was broken. I forced a bitter smile. When it's shattered into pieces, how can it ever be mended? Just go. Don't make this more awkward than it already is. Gu Zhang stood in front of me, looking like he had no intention of yielding. I raised my eyes. My words laced with sarcasm. Su Wei is gentle and considerate, understanding and thoughtful, unlike me, who's domineering and pushy, always forcing you to do things. Hearing the words he had once spoken, Gu Zhang's heart clenched, his expression pained, and he finally stepped aside. After graduation, Su Yan and I got into the Design Institute. Gu Zhang stubbornly followed by my side. He also got into the Design Institute. No matter what assignment I went on, he was right there with me. Over the years, society developed rapidly, and we both accumulated a certain amount of capital. I would always say, really, you don't have to. Go live the life you want, and stop following me around. Gu Zhang said nothing, not taking my words to heart. During a flood rescue operation, Gu Zhang gripped my hand tightly, desperately pushing me upward with all his strength, until the rescue team found us. We woke up in the hospital at the same time. His face was pale. Meng Qing, if there's a next life, will we be together? He was stubbornly seeking a good answer, seeking an unknown promise. I looked at him, thoughts swirling, before finally settling into calm. Gu Zhang, you and I owe each other nothing now, and there is no next life. I gazed at the burning red horizon in the distance, my eyes stinging, and finally gave one last gentle touch to the boy who had once loved me. Then I left the ward without hesitation, to embrace a better tomorrow. Not long after, I heard that Gu Zhang had resolutely resigned and headed to the northwest to pursue aerospace research. That was good. He could finally fulfill the dream he hadn't completed in his past life. Everyone was contributing to the beautiful construction of our country.